Hey y'all, Melissa here at Twin Oaks Family Farm in Southeast Ohio, USA, January 20th, 2025, and we got some new chickens. So I want to try to get some close-ups on the new chickens that we've got and tell you about where we're keeping them and what some of our plans are for January and February here with our egg production flocks. Thanks for joining us. Hope y'all are all doing well. We're going to head into, this is actually our meat bird production barn. There's not meat birds in it now, but we're going to head in here and take a look at the chickens that we've got in here. Thanks for joining me, y'all. Okay, if I looked cold out there, it was because I was. It is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and that's just about the warmest that it's supposed to be for about the next 2 or 3 days. Actually, so this is Monday. By Thursday, we will probably see a total shift in the weather pattern, and we might be in the 30s or possibly low 40s on Thursday. But between now and then, between Monday and Wednesday, all day, it is going to be as cold as it is now and colder. So in fact, tomorrow night in Southeast Ohio, they're saying -9, potentially -9 degrees Fahrenheit, and our daytimes are cold Tuesday and Wednesday, so we are looking forward to some warmer weather. But so what's going on in this building is, as I mentioned, this is actually our meat bird production barn. Here are some of the new chickens. So during the year, we raise flocks of Cornish rock cross meat chickens in this building. We are choosing not to have any meat chickens right now because meat birds can be raised from start to finish in about 6 weeks, but they are very particular about their preference for ambient conditions. So they want to be in ambient conditions of about 95 degrees Fahrenheit when we move them in, and then they never really want to be cooler than about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So I already gave you the lowdown on our temperatures. It's just going to be, it would be really challenging, extra, double, triple challenging for us to keep them warm and cozy and comfortable and thriving with the weather that we're having now. And we actually planned to start a flock about January 22nd, but we decided not to because the last week of December, we were looking ahead at the January forecast, and this Arctic cold pattern was predicted then. So we actually ended up adjusting our plans. I'm really glad that we did change our plans, and we're not starting Cornish rock cross meat birds until about March. So I think that's probably a black copper Moran there, if I had to guess. So she's one of the ones we just moved in. So since we don't have Cornish rock cross meat chickens in here now, we actually have had this flock that has moved itself into kind of the corner over there of Rhode Island red pullets. And so those Rhode Island reds are about 3 months old. They're kind of hanging out over there in that corner of the building. The one closest to us is one of the new ones that we just moved in. So those pullets that I showed y'all that are kind of hanging out in the corner over there, I think I mentioned they are about 3 months old. So they've been in this building since they moved in as hatchlings. And at the time, we were starting a flock of meat birds, and the meat birds start, grew, and finished in here. And then we took them to processing December 4th of 2024, and those Rhode Island red pullets started in here and have been growing in here, and we're going to move them either before they get to the point of lay or by the time that they get to the point of lay. But today we had the opportunity, let's try to count heads here on these birds. So there went one running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. That's what we thought we had. So we had the opportunity to receive 14 laying hens that needed rehomed, and we went over and got them today, moved them in. We just took a couple of our, up there in the corner, you can see a live poultry transport crate. That's how we store them. We actually have 50 of those. So when we have them all here, we have them stored up on the barn walls. So we took 2 of those crates over to where these chickens were and had help getting them loaded. And so we got them home here, and we actually, we didn't record it because we were trying to keep things calm and stress free for these chickens. But actually, when we got them home here, we went ahead and clipped their wings, because with having moved them, you know, creating a little bit of stress in them, we didn't want them to take flight and try to roost up in the rafters. We want to keep them down here on the barn floor. Plus, we do expect to actually, within the next 2 weeks, set up 2 or 3 other chicken housing situations. So we expect to be moving them soon. So looking ahead to having to try to catch them again, we thought it was best to clip their wings now. We didn't record any of clipping their wings because we just wanted to be workmanlike about it, get it done quickly for them, keep it as low stress as possible. So we did clip the wings, but that amounts to clipping some length off of the longest feathers on the chicken's wing, the flight feathers, and it doesn't hurt them at all. It amounts to a haircut. So, you know, it's a trim. You want to be mindful about how you do it, but it's very easy to do. If we have the opportunity to do it again, we'll try to record it. But so we obviously have mixed breeds in this group of 14 that we rehomed here, and we said the one of them is probably a black copper Moran. There's several that look like they are possibly Rhode Island Red or have Rhode Island Red genetics in them. We believe they're all hens, all 14 of them. And there are several that look like Americanas. We'll try to find one of those here. Yeah, so one right there. Actually, a couple right there. And then there's a gray one here. We are using some heat lamps because of the temperatures. We also have a de-icer in the water. Okay, so that's a 250 watt. It's actually a tank de-icer, but we just have it in the water dispensers that we like to use for our chickens. So I'm gonna try to, so she's a real light red feathered one there. Try to get some close up of them here at the feeder. But some very pretty hens, we were told. Yeah, and I do. Oh, well, she'll come back. That one I think is a black copper Moran. It's fine if they go over the wall. They're contained in the building. And that, the one that the tail feathers are missing, she may be another variety of Moran. The gray one there, closer, I believe, is an Americana. And the one around the feeder is a really pretty one. Can y'all see her? So, you know, they've either picked at each other's feathers, I mean, or they could be a molt, but as I was saying, we were told that of the 14, 10 eggs were laid by these hens this morning and gathered from this group of hens this morning. So as far as we know, they're actually actively laying. So that's excellent. And we knew they needed rehomed. The owner wanted to rehome them and actually offered them to us just to take them. And we end up doing some trading because we feel like they're really nice hens, and we want to you know, a little reciprocity for adding them to our flock. But this is great. We went ahead and decided of what we have available to house them in. The best situation was to move them into the meat bird barn with the group of pullets and let them settle in. And so what we're actually working on, they are real pretty. They are real pretty. So what we're actually working on is we're going to, I think, try a couple things to get some kind of, not expanded necessarily, but to have some other chicken housing options here at the place. One thing we're looking at is a 6 by 8 foot greenhouse that we might use maybe for this group of 14 hens. We'll have to make some modifications to it to make it work for a greenhouse, but it's kind of a kit, greenhouse kit, and ready to assemble. She came back over. So a little greenhouse kit ready to assemble. I'm just checking it all out. And we'll get it assembled and hopefully move these girls into it. Then another thing we're thinking of is just getting some lumber and constructing a couple of also small, maybe not as small as 6 foot by 8 foot, but a couple of small coops. We basically wanted to get the Rhode Island Reds out of this building into their own coop as well. So one of those structures will be for them. And then, you know, we have about 56 laying hens that are layers for our egg sales. So we also want to get them a new setup because we may be repurposing the chicken coops where they are. So a lot of change, you know. So we've got all that going on. So so we'll let these hens settle in here. You know, it would have been maybe ideal to not move them into a building where there were already some other birds, but this was the best setup we have right at the moment, and we're also fighting, you know, freezing conditions, so we need to be able to keep water thawed to them and keep their food near them and not have them out in the elements. We are going ahead and using heat lamps. I mentioned that we don't always recommend putting heat lamps on mature chickens because really they can thermoregulate really well and they have ample feathering. But when we're getting down into negatives, single digits and negatives, we're happy to give them some supplemental warmth. And we already have a really expanded tolerance for using heat lamps because when we do raise meat chickens, we do use heat lamps extensively to moderate temperature around them. Because I mentioned already earlier, you know, with the meat birds, we're dealing with a temperature range throughout production on 6-week cycles of 95 degrees decreasing to 70 degrees, and they never want ambient temperature lower than 70. So you know, no matter what time of year it is, really, we have to utilize heat lamps to meet those metrics for the meat birds. But with our egg production chickens, you know, once they're well feathered, even as pullets, once they're well feathered, they can thermoregulate really well. And so we don't have to have a lot of supplemental warmth on them, even down into the 30s. But our opinion, since we have the infrastructure for the supplemental warmth and the heat lamps, once we're down into the low 20s and lower, we feel that we're comfortable with adding supplemental warmth for them. So you know, they're really good around people. These birds that we brought in, these 14, they are used to being handled. They're used to being taken well care of every day, and they're going to be great chickens here. We're really excited to add them to our egg layers. We're going to give them a week to settle in here. One thing we did do different in here, these Rhode Island Reds, we've been feeding them a 19% grower crumble that's a complete poultry feed. It's by Kalmbach. We get it from our local Mill Beverly Feeding Equipment. We did decide with bringing these girls in to get a 20% protein poultry grower instead. So the 19% we were getting was not non-GMO. To get the little higher protein that we got, it is non-GMO. So little change in the feed. These girls were actually already on like a 16% protein layer mash, and we're going to have that food available for them too. But we decided to put the 20% crumble in here, and that'll be good for our Rhode Island Reds and for these chickens. So they'll all work it out. Looks like a lot of the Rhode Island Reds are like, whoa, who are these birds coming into our space? There's also about 54 of these. So they'll work it out. They'll want to be, and actually, here's one of the new ones right here amongst them. So you know, they'll make their way, these Rhode Island Reds will make their way back over, and we are going to keep the heat lamps in use at least through Thursday for them. So, but anyway, just wanted to show y'all, we got some new hens. We're planning on some new pullets in March, and we're also planning on meat birds in March, but we weren't expecting to get some laying hens added into our flock anytime soon. So this was really, really a happy surprise, nice surprise. So I'm excited to see these gals settle in. There was one of these gals, I think the one right there amongst this group of 14. So this, I'm trying to get in close on her. So the one on the right, okay, and the one right there. of these 14 that we moved in, I feel like she does show dominance as far as pecking order. So, you know, so they're a group that's been together. They have an established pecking order. But with them being outnumbered by the Rhode Island Reds, I don't feel like these 14 will bully the Rhode Island Reds. And with the Rhode Island Reds that are already here being younger than the birds we're moving in, I don't feel that the Rhode Island Reds, even in their larger numbers, will bully or overwhelm these chickens. So, you know, it's always dicey when you take groups of chickens and put them together. I feel better about this since each group has certain strengths. Each group has a little bit of safety in numbers, and each group has kind of offsetting strengths. So I think that'll help neutralize them learning to get along. And it'll probably be short term. But anyway, we wanted to show y'all. So that one right there is the one we think has the dominance. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Stay warm. God bless ya.